PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar says Supreme Court judgment shows judiciary has been hijacked by dictatorial cabal. Abike Dabire charges National Assembly to enact a bill allowing Nigerians in the diaspora to vote. In international news, 30,000 residents evacuated as 1,000 firefighters battle wind-driven wildfire near Los Angeles. And in sport, Ghana Raw releases Super Eagles squad list for Benin-Lesotho clashes.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, has described the Supreme Court's judgment on the 2019 presidential election as a clear picture of how corruption is deeply rooted in the judiciary. Abubakar says the court has been hijacked by obvious dictatorial tendencies. Abubakar said the ruling showed the Supreme Court had always been undermined and rendered ineffective as part of what he called President Buhari's alleged repressive tactics. A panel of 7 judges led by Mohammed Tanko had dismissed on Wednesday Atiku's appeal against the ruling of the Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal last month. President Buhari has repeatedly denied being dictatorial in his handling of Nigeria, saying people were reluctant to live with his policy of not allowing business as usual to continue in the country. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has described the late former military governor of the state's retired Brigadier General Bolaji Johnson as a complete gentleman, officer and a dedicated Lagosian. Sanwo-Olu says Bolaji Johnson would be remembered for the hallmark of service to the development of Lagos. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, says the late Mobolaji Johnson would be remembered for his good leadership qualities and the foundation he laid for the development of the state. Late Johnson served under former head of state, Major General Thomas Aguiyi-Ironsi, and was appointed the military governor of Lagos State by Ironsi's successor, General Yakubu Gowon. He died at age 83. He was governor from May 1967 to July 1975. Minister of Aviation Hadi Sirika says the federal government does not have the intention to absolve Arik Air as the nation's carrier. Sirika says 80% of international airlines that have dominated Africa are non-African. The aviation minister says Arik Air is private sector driven and would not be able to serve Nigeria in the best interest of the nation. Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, AMCOM's managing director and chief executive officer Ahmed Kuru had earlier called on the Nigerian government to convert Arik Air into a national carrier. Kuru advised the government to take advantage of Arik's new development rather than trying to set up a new airline brand from the scratch. The federal government is urging the National Assembly to pass a bill that will allow Nigerians in the diaspora to participate in local elections from any country they reside in. The Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Mrs. Abike Dabire says when she appeared before the House of Representatives Committee on Diaspora to defend the Commission's 2020 budget proposal, that would be a great legacy of the 9th Assembly if diaspora voting becomes a reality. Dabire says the bill could be modified to start off in a few countries at a time before taking off in other countries. She also urged the committee to intervene in the issue of diaspora remittances because of the discrepancies. She disclosed that the creation of the commission and the Committee on Diaspora has addressed the situation of Nigerians stranded in Libya. It was good news to the general public and the liquefied petroleum gas industry when the federal government finally approved the removal of value-added tax on liquefied petroleum gas, also called cooking gas, same which makes it an official pronouncement. Kelechi Emekalam reports that this has increased higher demands in the product, especially from business owners and households.
Judith Kwesi earns a living from her small cooking business in the Garki market in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. She started out using kerosene stoves, and just months back, she changed to using gas. The crash in the price of cooking gas presents an opportunity for many like Judith to save some extra cash.
That's 6 kg. I normally buy 2.5. That's how I normally buy. But now, I heard that it's 1.5. There's a lot of difference.
The consumption ratio for cooking gas in the country has continued to rise with a record 600% in the last 2 years. While the price drop may seem insignificant, consumers are excited. The government's earlier removal of the 5% VAT from domestic pricing also contributed to the price fall. Among other advantages, this trend has created a boom in the sector.
Why people they are using gas now is that, like when you look at this thing now, you see that this cylinder you see here is 12.5. We get 12.5 kg, we get 5 kg, we get 6 kg. So when they see now, they go say that as this 3 kg, as this the price they okay, make the price go down well so that more customers be coming.
Nigeria currently consumes about 600,000 metric tons, which is over 10% of a country's actual capacity. The goal, however, is to achieve 5 million metric tons utilization in the next 10 years, and that could be achieved with a continuous price drop.
Coming up, African stories. Doctors Without Borders suspends activities in Central African Republic. And later, international news. 30,000 residents evacuated as 1,000 firefighters battle wind-driven wildfire near Los Angeles.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to African stories. United Nations Migration Organization body, IOM, says it has suspended some of its Ebola screening services after 3 of its aid workers were killed in South Sudan. The International Organization for Migration volunteers were caught in the crossfire during clashes that broke out on Sunday. IOM South Sudan Chief of Mission Jean-Philippe Charles says the workers died during clashes between rival groups in the country's central equatorial region. IOM says it has also suspended screening for Ebola at 5 border points between South Sudan, Uganda, and Democratic Republic of Congo. An ongoing Ebola outbreak in the DRC has killed thousands of people. International Humanitarian Group MSF, also called Doctors Without Borders, have suspended parts of its operations in Brea, Central African Republic, after its office and members of the region were attacked by armed robbers over the weekend. Head of the organization's mission in the Central African Republic, Karen Roberts, says activities, mainly primary health care, have been suspended in Brea. The MSF office has also reduced its activities on ground to protest against this kind of behavior against its staff. During its last interaction before returning to Brea, MSF had signed an agreement with the armed groups operating in that city to avoid this kind of attack against its workers and activities. Zimbabwe teachers have made good on their threats to adopt a 2-day work week and to dump official work outfit. They blame high inflation, which has created their inability to afford transportation and uniforms. Reporter Patrick Coyette has the story.
Charles Mubwandarikwa is back from work, planning his next lesson, but he's not sure when that will be. He's been reporting for work 2 days a week because he's incapacitated.
The amount that I receive can only cover for about 2 weeks. So what we have decided to do with other colleagues is to alternate so that some go today, the others go the next day, so that at least we keep the school running. So when you hear the government saying that schools are running smoothly, that's not true. They always, on a particular day, a number of teachers are not there.
Public servants want higher pay to keep up with escalating costs.
I have a small family, right, of myself and my wife and my son. We are renting 3 rooms at an average cost of $100 each, which comes to about $300 a month. The government is paying me slightly over $1,000, that is before deductions. My parents are in my care. I pay their medical aid, I pay their funeral cover, and it wipes out all the money that I'm supposed to earn. My net salary after the $1,000 has been deposited, after my deductions, I'm left with about $400.
The hard times have forced a tightening of the belts.
We have had to forego some other luxuries. Gas is expensive, electricity is not there. I have bought some firewood so that when the weather is favorable, then we will do some cooking. We are in town. We didn't expect it to be using firewood. We thought that a teacher in town should be better off.
Because the government is trying to exercise fiscal restraint, it's been reluctant to award huge increments to its workforce. The finance minister recently said another pay hike for civil servants is imminent to cushion them from the rising cost of living. However, the news hasn't enthused hard-pressed beneficiaries.
The moment that is announced, the prices are adjusted to perhaps threefold what would be coming. So by the time we receive the salaries, or by the time we are able to get the money, it's already used up, it's already useless.
Civil servants want their wages linked to the US dollar exchange rate, the only way, they say, to get them through these tough times.
When we return, international news. Residents evacuated as firefighters battle wind-driven wildfire in California. And later, sports. Super Eagles coach Gena Raw releases squad list for Benin-Lesotho clash.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. On the foreign scene, firefighters were battling all night a new fast-moving blaze tagged Easy Fire as it ravages many parts of Simi Valley, 65 kilometers from downtown Los Angeles, forcing a new round of fire evacuations in the area. Residents of Southern California knew this was coming, and on Wednesday, they braced for a new set of fires. Some of the driest and windiest weather of the season are making it almost unavoidable. Firefighters from neighboring countries and states also joined the operation as they fight the flames from several fronts. After the so-called Easy Fire broke out on Wednesday, it has been spreading very quickly on the hills of Simi Valley, mainly as a vegetation fire. But the main concern for these firefighters is to stop that fire from reaching main roads and spreading to the rest of the area. Planes came to the rescue of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library when it was threatened by fires reaching the hilltop. 2 more fires stopped as the Water and the Hills fire erupted on the other side of LA. They forced several roads and freeways to shut down for safety and many residential areas to be evacuated.
We've just been watching it from our house and watching it up on the hill and stuff. It's a little scary after last year's fires.
The new fires also came close to animal shelters and horse ranches, and evacuating them was an additional challenge. Officials are still concerned about the potential for more wildfires. LA Fire Chief Ralph Terza says it only takes one ember to blow down wind and start another fire. The strong winds have continued on Thursday, and tens of thousands of those who evacuated are wondering what will be there when they return. Chile was withdrawn on Wednesday as a host of an APEC summit next month. After weeks of riots over inequality in the country, at least 18 persons are dead, and the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation meeting is now in shambles. Participating countries are caught off guard and no alternative venue has been lined up. Reporter Joel Richards is on the story.
Barely just a few days ahead of the APEC summit, Chile has been forced to cancel the Leaders' Summit and also the UN Climate Conference COP25, owing to the unrest and tension after days of protests across Chile. World leaders were expected to meet in Santiago and really looking to get the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum back on track. Last year in Papua New Guinea, leaders failed to reach an agreement, and Chile was very much hoping to be the broker for an agreement here and in turn raise Chile's profile. But instead, Sebastián Piñera, the Chile president, announced on Wednesday morning that they had to cancel that and also COP25, the United Nations Climate Change Conference. 25,000 delegates were expected there for the conference in early December. Greta Thunberg, the young Swedish activist, just one of the people expected to discuss the pressing issue of climate change. But Chile has been forced to lend all its focus, put all of its efforts into addressing what is now days of social unrest. At the weekend, more than 1 million Chileans were on the streets in Santiago, the capital, and which so far has led to an estimated 20 deaths, thousands of arrests and numerous accusations of human rights abuses by the security forces.
The months-long relentless and violent street protests in Hong Kong have eroded some of the city's financial law. Economists say that demonstrations will have lasting economic consequences. They say some of the impact has already been felt and could add up to long-term challenges to the city's prosperity. The Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam says she's confident the city would maintain its role as a global trade center. Gyo Yong-fei reports.
Hong Kong's economy is sliding into the technical recession. The city's GDP growth is facing negative growth for 2019. Chief Executive Carrie Lam expressed her concerns over the situation at the Future of Trade conference on Wednesday, held by Asia House, a think tank.
As uncertainties in the external environment will likely persist for some time, the near-term outlook remains dismal. It is a distressing time for Hong Kong trade and business, equally so for the community at large, for the Hong Kong SAR government, and for myself.
She added that in terms of trade for the first 9 months of 2019 as a whole, the value of total exports of goods dropped by 4.6% over the same period in 2018. Hong Kong's future is facing mounting uncertainty, especially when the city's ongoing social unrest coincides with the US-China trade war. As the city is entering into a technical recession, will Hong Kong's special role as a global trade center be shaken?
Ladies and gentlemen,
the U.S. House of Representatives has passed a resolution Thursday, formally setting out the process by which committees will continue carrying out the inquiry into whether President Donald Trump should face impeachment. The vote is likely to show the divide in the House between the majority Democrats, whose leaders have argued there was no need to bring forth such a resolution to make the process legitimate, and the minority Republicans who have thus far opposed the inquiry. They argue the process is too closed and is not giving them an equal part. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said the House is taking the step to erase any doubt as to whether the White House may withhold documents or prevent witness testimony. She also said this will help caution the Trump administration against disregarding duly authorized subpoenas or continued obstruction of the House of Representatives.
Up next, sports. Gannett Raw releases Super Eagles squad list for Benin Lesotho clashes. Please stay.
Welcome back. This is ANN News and Sport. Super Eagles technical advisor Gannett Raw has released a squad list for next month's 2021 Africa Cup of Nations qualifying matches against Benin Republic and Lesotho. Captain Ahmed Musa defended Kenneth Umero back from injury. Goalkeeper Daniel Akpeyi is called for the first time since the Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt this year summer is also back.